Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kukuyo. Thanks for joining me for meditation and Sutra study. This evening's practice will consist of a 15-minute guided meditation, a reading from a Buddhist scripture, followed by a Dharma talk. The title of today's Dharma talk is Celebrating a Buddhist Christmas. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. So, we'll begin like we always do on Wednesdays with our guided meditation. I'll give you a moment to get in position. The only rule is that you need to be comfortable, and you need to be in a position that you can hold for at least 15 minutes without moving. If you'd like some instruction, what I like to do is sit either on the floor or on the cushion in a cross-legged position, back straight, chin slightly tucked. Eyes can be closed, or if you prefer to have them open, that's fine. Just point them downwards at a 45-degree angle to eliminate visual distractions. Left hand goes palm up in the lap. Right hand goes palm up over the left in the meditation mudra. And we'll begin our practice with our breath. Breathing in and out through the nose. Breathing in this way engages the parasympathetic portion of our nervous system. It signals to our body that we're safe and we can relax. As we breathe in and out through the nose, on every inhale, we extend our belly button slightly, as if we just had a large meal. And then we relax on the exhale. If we're wondering what to do with our thoughts, just bring your focus to the physical sensations of the breathing. The feeling of air moving up and down our throat, the feeling of our belly expanding and contracting, the feeling of our clothing against our skin. We'll breathe in this way for about 2 minutes. I'll keep time. And if our mind wanders, that's okay. We simply say hello to our thoughts and bring our focus back to our breathing. Excellent. Keep breathing. Now we'll start the visualization. Let's visualize a fire burning in our belly, in the space behind our belly button. This fire burns like a campfire in the woods, and it represents our own enlightened nature. The fire is our favorite color. If we like red, the fire is red. If we like orange, the fire is orange. And what we'll do now is with every inhale, we'll bring air into our lungs. With every exhale, we'll breathe out through the nose and visualize ourselves blowing on the base of the fire, just like we would a campfire in the woods, feeding it oxygen, making it bigger and brighter with every breath. We'll breathe in this way for about 2 minutes. I'll keep time. Wonderful. Now we'll build on the visualization, imagining a channel of energy going down from our belly to the center of the earth. And once we get there, we find an energy that's identical to our own. If the fire of our enlightened nature is green, the earth's energy is green. If our fire is blue, the earth's energy is blue. 2,600 years ago, Buddha relied on the earth to help him realize enlightenment. And now we'll do the same. With every inhale, we'll visualize ourselves pulling energy up from the earth, storing it in our belly, blending it with the fire of our own enlightened nature. With every exhale, we'll continue to blow on that fire, amplifying it, making it bigger and brighter with every breath. We'll breathe in this way for 2 minutes. And if our mind wanders, that's okay. We simply say hello to our thoughts and bring our focus back to our breathing and to the visualization. Great work. Everyone's sitting so quietly and so still. Now we'll continue to build on the visualization by sending a second channel of energy up to the top of our heads. With every inhale, we pull energy up from the center of the earth, storing it in our belly, blending it with the fire of our own enlightened nature. With every exhale, we push that energy up out the top of our heads until it explodes like a volcano, showering every inch of us in healing spiritual light. We've had a rough week. The holidays are upon us. They're wonderful, but they can also be stressful. Now is our chance to send healing wherever it's needed. Breathing energy up from the earth, storing it in our belly. Exhaling and sending that energy out the top of our heads like a volcano. Letting it rain down all over us. We'll breathe in this way for about 2 minutes. I'll keep time. Great work. There's a wonderful energy as we sit here this evening. Each person amplifying the practice of another. It's what Sangha is for. But now it's time to bring our meditation to a close. We do this by gently closing off the channel of energy going to the top of our heads, pushing the energy down until it stops right where it began, in our belly. Then we close off the channel of energy going to the center of the earth, pulling it back into ourselves. Maybe we give the earth a silent bow, thanking her for helping us with our training, just like she did the Buddha all those years ago. And finally, we take note of the fire burning in our belly, our own enlightened nature, reminding ourselves that we can call on it whenever we need to. But now, we let the visualization fade. We come back into our bodies by moving our heads to the left and then to the right, back and forth, feeling the physical sensations in our neck. Then we come back to center and roll our shoulders forward and back. Noticing the feeling of our clothing against our skin. Till finally our shoulders hang limply against the floor, towards the floor. And if our eyes are closed, we open them. I'll give you about 20 seconds to do that. Thanks for practicing with me this evening. That was powerful. Now we'll move into the Sutra reading for tonight. The reading will come from The Center Within by Reverend Gyomei Kubose. Not necessary to have a copy of the text, but it can be useful if you'd like to follow along. Tonight's essay is called Buddha's Gift. Comes from page 40, and it states, Kashyapa was one of the Buddha's great disciples. He was one of the leaders of the Sangha after Buddha passed away. Ananda, another famous disciple, asked Kashyapa, besides the robe and bowl, these were symbols of the Dharma transmission. What else did the teacher pass on to you? Kashyapa said, Ananda. Ananda replied, yes. Although Ananda was a devoted and faithful disciple, he represents the unenlightened person. Kashyapa represents the enlightened individual. Besides the robe and bowl, Ananda wanted to know what else Kashyapa had received. Perhaps some secret doctrine or teaching? To Kashyapa, such a question was foolish. What the Buddha left was the way of direct communication. When Kashyapa called Ananda, Ananda answered yes. There was no lapse, no time for thinking. In the way of true communication, there is no thinking, no scheming. There is oneness, and it's direct and very immediate. It was this direct communication that the Buddha taught Kashyapa. True teaching is awareness of this oneness, this immediate communication between all things. Every word and every action between people, if done with awareness, makes explanations unnecessary. If there is a direct, intimate communication between yourself and in whatever you are engaged, then there is oneness. For example, food is life. The life of the eater is food. There should be a feeling of untold gratitude towards food. It's because of food that you're able to exist. Food and the eater are one in life. The essence is the same. This realization of oneness is Buddhism. It involves the highest type of communication and respect. If your life is realized in this sense between you and your work, friends, and clothing, you would see that the whole world supports you. You exist because of others. Everything supports your life. This totality, this oneness, evokes a gratitude and a great joy beyond explanation. If two persons become one in love or in trust, words are not necessary. Their entire life is communicated by a pat on the shoulder, a wink, the touching of toes beneath the table. Even between two persons on an entirely human level, there can be a feeling of oneness. How much more so if you communicate directly with all things you encounter in the world? This intimate oneness is a tremendous thing. This is what the Buddha left to Kashyapa, to all of us. So, at the time of this recording, Christmas is just a few days away. New Year's is only a few more days after that. And this can be an interesting time for Buddhist practitioners. Christmas is traditionally a Christian holiday with pagan roots in the Saturnalia practice of paganism. And it can be difficult to know how we as Buddhists fit into the picture. Should we refuse to participate? Should we celebrate it as a purely secular holiday? Should we just go along in order to keep the peace? And while I would never tell anyone how to live their own lives, I would submit that Christmas can be a very Buddhist holiday. That in fact, the core practices of Christmas are completely in line with Buddhist teachings. So that's what we'll discuss today. Now we'll begin by discussing the Buddhist teachings on ignorance. Now if we look at the Compendium of the Higher Teaching, which was written by Asanga, the founder of Yogacara Buddhism, we're taught that the root of suffering in this world is ignorance. And this ignorance comes in two forms. There's ignorance of the absolute, and there's ignorance of the conventional. Ignorance of the absolute is the illusion of the separate self. I am here and you're there, thus creating a subject-object relationship. And ignorance of the conventional is clinging to the sense pleasures, wealth, status, etc. These two types of ignorance are interpenetrating and mutually supporting. When we chase after sense pleasures like drugs, money, status, they reinforce the illusion of a separate self. And when we feel separate from the world around us, we try to numb the pain that comes along with it by chasing after sense pleasures. Thus, ignorance leads to desire, desire leads to greed and anger, and this is how we arrive at the three poisons of Buddhism: greed, anger, and ignorance, which keep us trapped in the cycle of suffering. Now, the good news is that over 2,600 years, Buddhist teachers have developed numerous ways to help people escape from ignorance, to break the cycle of suffering. One simple practice is the practice of devotion, which we find in Buddhist temples all over the world. The concept is straightforward. If one is suffering, and that suffering comes from a feeling of separation, the illusion of a separate self, then we can counteract that illusion by building relationships which increase feelings of belonging and interconnectedness. As we learn to recognize and celebrate our oneness with the world around us, our suffering decreases. And devotional practices take many forms, but one of the most popular ones is that of gift giving and making offerings. We see this when practitioners make offerings of food and water at their altars, when we light candles, when we burn incense. These are all traditional parts of Buddhist liturgies. These actions build a sense of community in the Sangha as everyone worships together. also, as we give that small part of ourselves, that food, that water, that smell from the incense, that light from the candle, feelings of generosity and compassion develop in our minds. And we learn to practice devotion. Devotion not to ourselves, but to others. And as we practice devotion towards others, towards the Buddha in others, we are better able to see the Buddha in us. And we recognize the Buddha body, the Dharmakaya, which we are all a part of. This is important because ignorance convinces us that kindness is weakness, that vulnerability is dangerous. But that sort of thinking reinforces our feelings of isolation and encourages us to chase after sense pleasures, thus increasing our suffering. Devotion saves us from all of that. But of course, this begs the question, if we're practicing devotion, who are we devoted to? And I alluded to this earlier. In the context of Buddhist training, we start by showing devotion to the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas that came after him. We do this because it's often easier to show respect to a historical figure or celestial beings because we know the feeling is mutual. Every time we bow to the Buddha bows back to us. However, as we learn to honor and venerate the Buddha on our altar, we also learn to honor and venerate the Buddha in our hearts. This in turn leads us to seeing and caring for the Buddha in others, until the object of our devotion isn't the Buddha on our altar necessarily. It's not even the Buddha in our hearts. It's whatever happens to be in front of us at that moment. We are devoted to our family. We are devoted to our friends. We are devoted to the houseplant, to the pets, to the coworker. Everything becomes Buddha. Everything becomes an object of devotion. Thus, we enter into that oneness, which Reverend Gilmay alluded to in the talk. That's why when a student asked Zen Master Tozan, "What is Buddha?" he responded, 3 pounds of flax. And if a bag of seeds is Buddha, if a bag of seeds is worthy of praise, of veneration, of devotion, what does that say about human beings? What does that say about us, about our loved ones? Ironically, one of the best opportunities to pay homage to the Buddha is found on a Christian holiday. Christmas, with its focus on decorations, gift-giving, and communal meals, allows us to recognize the divinity in all things. And we can do this in a number of ways. First, we can put up a Christmas tree in our house. And we can decorate it with lights and other adornments. Now, for a Buddhist, this tree is representative of the trees that live in Amida's Pure Land. Amida started off life as Dharmakara Bodhisattva. He was saddened by the defiled nature of our world, and he responded by practicing Buddhism, practicing the Dharma for endless kalpas until he developed miracle powers and created a separate Pure Land, a land of ultimate bliss, where any who had faith in him could enter. Now, what's important to note about the Pure Land is, yes, it does exist in the afterlife, but it also exists here in this life as well. In fact, one of the core teachings of Reverend Gilmay Kubose was that if we purify our minds well enough, we can see the Pure Land in this lifetime, in this world today. Everything around us is the Pure Land if we train our minds to see it. And Christmas trees can help us do this because they are representative of the trees we find in Amida's Pure Land, which we know from the 3 Pure Land Sutras are brightly colored, and their branches possess 7 different types of jewels. So when we decorate Christmas trees as part of the Christmas holidays, we are creating a physical representation not only of Amida's Pure Land, but also of our own enlightened nature. It is representative of the Dharma just as much as the Buddha on our altar. Maybe more so. Next, we can exchange gifts with family members and friends. Now, it's easy to forget in this defiled world that everyone possesses Buddha nature. And while it's a powerful practice to make offerings at our altar of food, water, etc., it's even more powerful to make offerings to the people and the Buddhas in our lives. When we wrap presents, when we give gifts with a mind of gratitude and faith, when we practice devotion to other people, we build relationships that destroy the illusion of separateness. We honor the interdependent nature of our communities, and we reduce suffering for everyone involved. Again, when we honor the Buddha in others, we honor the Buddha in ourselves. Finally, we can share meals with our loved ones. Food, as we learned in the essay, is precious, but it's especially precious in the context of spiritual practice. The first food offering that was ever given to Buddha was in the form of a bowl of rice milk. It was given to him by a young girl named Sujata, and the Buddha would have starved without her help. So this was when he was practicing as an ascetic, and his ascetic practice was starvation. He was eating only 1 grain of rice a day. And because of that starvation, he passed out in the river. He would have died. But because of the food offering that he received from Sujata, he lived. And not only did he live, but his teachings lived with him. Think about that for a moment. The Buddha Dharma as we know it would have disappeared from this earth if not for a single offering of food. Now we can replicate the wisdom of Buddha and the compassion of Sujata by making offerings of food to our family and to our friends. When we break bread with them during the holidays, our devotion is a show of respect to them and to Sujata, who set such a wonderful example for us 2,600 years ago. Thus, through these devotional practices of giving gifts, decorating Christmas trees, and making food offerings to our family and to our friends, we can integrate Buddhist teachings into the Christmas holidays, transforming it into a powerful Dharma practice, which moves us and our family and friends one step closer to enlightenment. As Buddhists, it can be difficult to blend our spiritual traditions with the dominant culture in America. Sometimes we may feel as if we're excluded, as if celebrations have no place for us, that we need to keep quiet and make ourselves small in order to keep the peace. But if we practice skillful means and approach life with creativity, we can find the Buddha Dharma in every aspect of the holidays. Amitabha. So that was the talk for today. I hope it was helpful. I'll just end with a few announcements. So this was Meditation and Sutra Study. We do it every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The practice consists of a 15-minute guided meditation, a reading from a Buddhist scripture, followed by a Dharma talk. Every Sunday, we do something a little bit less involved. That's Dharma Sunday. And I just take some topic from pop culture or the news, and I speak on it from a Buddhist perspective. So I read from one article, and I give a Dharma talk, tying canonical Buddhist teachings with daily life. Again, that happens at 7 p.m. on Sunday, also broadcast at this channel. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future, and if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be helpful too. So, I hope to see you on Sunday. Until next time, Amitabha.